stop in and visit them at Westside Decorating Center. Good morning to you. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Art Lewis Show. Later on, after the 10 o'clock news, we're going to have folks here to talk about adoption and some foster care questions. At 11 o'clock this morning, Ken Buck from Buck Insurance will join us, but we're going to spend the first part of this hour talking about child advocacy. And we have some folks to talk about it with us in studio this morning. First of all, the executive director of what was the Safe and Sound Child Advocacy Center, now the Midland Child Advocacy Center, and he is Kevin High. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us. Also with us today in studio is Kaylee Brown, and she is a forensic interviewer, and we'll chat with her about that. Good morning, Kaylee.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being with us this morning. All right, so I think we start out with an overview of the Midland Child Advocacy Center, what it is you do, and why the name change.
Very good. I'll jump in and I'll have Kaylee fill in the gaps because I'm relatively new to this role. I've been there just over a year. But the Midland Child Advocacy Center has been around for 45 years, actually. They opened in 1979, really focused on prevention work. And then in 2005, they added the child advocacy portion of it, which included the forensic interviews, more of the intervention work. And then most recently, through conversations with our sponsors, our political people, we looked at our name and it was confusing for some people, so we determined that we needed to change our name to the Midland Child Advocacy Center to better represent the area that we serve, because advocacy centers are all over the state. So this better is in alignment better with what other agencies are doing.
And in some ways, maybe not to the scale, but in some ways you are similar to the CAN Council in Saginaw.
Yeah, we provide very similar services. Usually a CAN council has counseling and therapy and a few other services where we're really focusing on the prevention and intervention pieces. They provide additional service, but very similar to what we do in Midland.
So when we talk about child advocacy, what are you advocating for?
Yep, I'll let Kaylee jump in and she can kind of talk a little bit more about some of those specific programs that we do and how we allow kids to share their stories and those aspects. Kaylee?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a child advocacy center, our job is to really make sure that children have a safe place where their voices can be heard. We want to provide them the opportunity to share and disclose to us if there's ever been an experience of abuse or neglect in their life, if they need to tell their story, if they need help. We want to provide that safe environment for them to get the help that they need. We also focus a lot on prevention programming and hope to see prevention really take over the child advocacy world so that we can stop cases before they come to our doorstep.
And you have a scary title, forensic interviewer.
Yes.
That would turn most people off right away because forensic might lead one to believe there's a crime involved. So when you do forensic interviews, first of all, how old are the children you're interviewing?
So we interview kids, typically ages are around 3 to up to 18 years old. We can interview with adults if there's a need, if there's any cognitive disability or anything that justifies us needing to do that. But typically it is between that, like 3 to 18. We can do younger if they're verbal, but we'll kind of evaluate pre-interview whether or not they'd be capable of
When you
talking.
do these interviews with a youngster who might have been abused, who knows what the case is, who else is there? Who represents the child, in other words? Is it a parent, or if the parents are involved in the case, is there a guardian? Who is there to represent the child?
Absolutely. So to be there with the child, we have whoever is their caregiver, the non-offending caregiver.
First you have to find out who that
yes.
is, though, right?
Yes, depending on what allegations are bringing them in, because we always have law enforcement or CPS or both involved from the start, and that's how cases get referred to us. But there's always a caregiver or guardian, non-offending, bringing the child or there to represent the child and sign off on
Do they sit in on the interviews? Or
They do not.
I was
No.
going to say the interviews are pretty private, aren't they?
They are, yes. So the interview is just myself and the child, and the team that I work with, the multidisciplinary team, which includes law enforcement, the prosecuting attorney, DHHS, CPS
They might be in
workers.
on the meetings?
They're in a different room, so they're not sitting in the same room with us, but they might be in a separate room through CCTV, able to provide input. And we're very transparent with the child. There's no surprise there are people watching us. From the very beginning of the interview, I tell them about my team and my job and why my team listens into the interview, and try to make that process very transparent for them, because we're not trying to trip them up or trick them. We just want them to feel safe and supported.
Are youngsters willing to talk about some of these things? I mean, and the other side of that, too, is how do you separate the vivid imagination from reality?
That's a very good question. It surprises me every day how brave the kids that I have the privilege of sitting with and interviewing are to talk to someone who they just met about these things. There are a lot of kids who open up and want to be heard and want their story to be told in their words, not have someone else speak for them. I'm so sorry, what was the second part of your question?
How you separate the vivid imagination from reality.
Yeah, so I'm trained in forensic interviewing protocol. There were 2 different trainings I attended, and both of those focus. One was through the prosecuting attorney's organization in Michigan, the PAM training,
Yep.
and then one was a national training as well. And both of those really focus on, at the beginning of the interview, talking to the child about why we're here, what we're here to talk about, making sure that you build that rapport, but also letting them know we do talk about things that are real, things that are true while we're here. At the end of the day, people can question whether or not a child is being honest, but we make clear that while we're in that room, we're talking about real things, things that are true, things that really happened.
So if a case goes to court, does the court accept that interview? Or do the officers listening in the other room have to go out and develop factual base?
Well, the interview doesn't stand alone. It's very much the first part of that, maybe not the first part, but it's a very early part of the investigation. So based on what we find in the interview, that's why it's so important that our partners in law enforcement and CPS and prosecution are present for that, because their case moves forward from that interview. The interview won't be the sole piece of that case, but it will be an important part of it.
And what's great about the partnership with the multidisciplinary team is we provide that safe, welcoming environment for that child. So when that child comes in, they're not going into a law enforcement office or a doctor's office or whatever. So it's a very warm, inviting environment, so that child feels very safe, and they know that we're there to listen to them, because it's very victim focused. So our role is really to allow that child to share their experience. We're not really investigating. We're really just doing more of setting that stage that child has somebody that they feel comfortable talking to, and then work closely with the prosecutor and law enforcement for whatever may come next out of that interview.
How much about that case do you know going in? You have to have some idea what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I might have mentioned before, we do interviews based on referrals that come in from our partners, so from law enforcement or from CPS, and they give us referral information. We may not know the full scope of that case, but we know enough to have a jumping off point and know the situation that we will be discussing with the child. But kind of like Kevin said, my job is not to investigate or to pull answers out of a child for a specific aim. It's really to just help them lead the conversation and tell that story and tell their truth.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and talk more with our guests from the Midland Child Advocacy Center after these notes.
Abraham Lincoln once stated
back with you on the Art Lewis Show. In studio with me, Kevin High, the Executive Director of the Midland Child Advocacy Center. and Kaylee Brown, who is a forensic interviewer with the center. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Who pays for all this? How is it funded?
I'll jump in on that one.
I thought you might.
So we get some state and federal funding through the Community Trust of Michigan to really help support our prevention work. And then we get money through the Child Advocacy Centers of Michigan, and then VOCA dollars. So those dollars, VOCA, which is the Victims of Crime Act dollars.
Yes.
So all of those larger funding sources, but for us to be sustainable, we need local dollars too. So we do an annual fundraiser to get the community engaged. And then we also work with our local foundations, civic organizations. So we're very fortunate in Midland to have a lot of support along those ways to make sure that we're sustainable, to make sure we can have this service in our community available for everyone.
When's your fundraiser typically?
Yep. So we just had our fundraiser. It's our art and advocacy. So it's a really fun event. We had over 30 local artists donate to it. And then we do a live auction and a raffle, and we raised just over $39,000 at that event. And our presenting sponsor this year came through with Three Rivers Corporation to be able to make that event even bigger and better this year.
So let's talk about how big is the need? You know, how many youngsters, for example, do you serve?
Yeah, and so when we talk about our services, we do prevention work and intervention. So our staff team of 4, we have a prevention and education person that's full-time that really focuses in on the prevention work, working on like car seat safety, safe sleep in the schools, working with children. And then on the intervention side, we have 2 staff. One is a family advocate. So when those families come in, that non-offending caregiver, that's who they interact with. And then our forensic interviewer. So on the prevention side, we're touching over 500 people a year through our school programs, and then another 50 to 100 with the car seat program and safe sleep and some other programming that we offer on prevention. Work with a lot of other agencies. On the intervention side, when you're talking about forensic interviews, last year we saw just over 150 kids come through our facility.
Wow.
And that number fluctuates a little bit year to year, but was an uptick from the year before. And then this year, that first quarter, so January through March, we had a significant number within that first quarter. So it is something that is out there, but we're fortunate that we have community supporters and state funding that allows us to make sure every kid's voice is heard and they get the services they need.
Out of those 150, roughly out of those 150, how many are criminal cases and how many just require some family intervention to put the family on the right track?
Yep. In all the cases, additional resources are needed because usually there's other factors within the home. So that's where our family advocate really comes into play. And they do some follow-up with those families to make sure that they're in contact with DHHS, or if they need follow-up information through Shelter House or any other care facility in the area. With regards to going into litigation, we don't do as much of that, so I don't really have direct statistics on that percentage that go into that, but there are cases that do move forward, and that's really on the prosecution end, and that's why it's important that they're a part of the process to determine which of those cases need to go down that avenue. But CPS and DHHS is always there to make sure that if those kids are going back into their homes or whichever caregiver, they're going back into a safe environment. There's additional follow-up and then education for family and other people also.
So, Kaylee, let me ask, when you have a child in that interview situation, you have others in the other room, the law enforcement component and all of that, what are you looking for from that child?
Well, obviously a lot of it is case dependent, situational, but overall I am looking for a conversation with them. Like I had mentioned before, my job is not to needle at things that they are not willing to talk about. It's not to pull information from them. It's to make them comfortable and develop a relationship within that room with that child, and hold a conversation where they feel comfortable talking about what has happened to them, what what they're feeling, what they would like to see happen, just to tell their story. That's really
So
my
in some
goal.
ways, you're looking for affirmation of what happened to them.
Sometimes, absolutely. I'll certainly ask questions. I work with a team, so I will certainly guide the conversation if I have things that I'd like to know. But the child is really leading the conversation, and my goal when I sit down with them is to just create a space where they feel comfortable talking about what they need to talk about.
How do you do that with a 3-year-old?
That's a great question. It depends. Sometimes you can't. So early on, when talking with younger children especially, but really with everyone, it starts with just having a conversation and seeing if we're able to talk about events that have happened, see if we're able to, if they can share some things that they're interested in with me, really just building that relationship. Sometimes, to me, the mark of a successful interview isn't always that a disclosure is made. It's just that we're able to get to a point where we're having a conversation. And sometimes with younger developmental ages, or with just some children who aren't willing to open up, that conversation might not include a disclosure.
There's a sort of a concept that says, a lot of people that have been involved in, for example, sexual abuse don't want to talk about it. They shy away from talking about it. Do you find that true in children who've been involved in child abuse? I mean, is it something they want to bury?
It certainly depends. How everyone processes their trauma is very unique and individual experience, but I have found, at least in my small amount of experience in this field, that children do want to talk, and they want to be heard. So if something has happened, I find that oftentimes children do want to talk to someone about it and do want to let their voices be heard. Sometimes they're not ready. Sometimes it takes a little more time, some counseling, some just time for them to process as an individual, and that's okay. Sometimes they'll come back years later for an interview when they weren't ready to talk before, but it is a very unique individual experience for everyone.
When you sit down with that child, is it a one and out, or, are these repetitive? Do you interview a child more than once?
Typically, it is one and out. There are circumstances where multiple interviews are best practice. Those are definitely pretty unique circumstances. So typically, it's a child coming in to interview about a specific thing that's happened, and then once that interview is done, we do not re-interview that child on that same incident. We aren't looking for the answer to have changed on the same. We're not going to push on that. But there are circumstances where multi-session interviews are the way to go.
Typically, a session is how long? How long can you keep that child's attention?
Yeah, it truly depends. So a lot depends on age, on what happened, on whether they're willing to talk. I've had interviews that are 10 minutes, and I've had interviews that are 2 hours. So a lot of it is just very situational. But we're there for however long they're willing to hang out and talk with me.
Take a quick break, and we'll be back here on the Art Lewis Show.
Do you know that air duct cleaning is...
And we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show, talking to Kevin High, Executive Director of the Midland Child Advocacy Center, and Kaylee Brown, who is a forensic interviewer. So let's talk just for a minute about the procedures in place to have a child come to you. Does it have to be referred, or can a family walk in and request services?
Yeah, so good question. And we do get that question occasionally. But we do have to have a referral from law enforcement or CPS come in to our center. We can't have someone just walk in for a lot of different reasons, but mostly to maintain the integrity of that interview, make sure that we're not putting children through this process if it's not going to help them with this case, if we're not going to have the right parties involved. It's really important that we stick to that protocol.
So law enforcement does what to get your attention?
So we have a process with our local law enforcement and surrounding law enforcement, actually, where they can submit a referral to our center if a complaint or an allegation is made to them. and basically open up a report and then coordinate with us. And our center becomes sort of a hub temporarily for that investigation, where if CPS is involved, they'll be present, law enforcement will be present. We're very lucky in our county that our prosecution is present for nearly all interviews to help out with the investigation. So it's a very involved process from all of our MDT partners.
So how much legwork is done before you get that child? And here's what I mean by that. Law enforcement gets a complaint. They don't just call you up and say, we've got a complaint. There must be some pre-investigation to establish that there's something there to look at.
Absolutely. So I wouldn't be comfortable speaking to, because it's not my area of expertise, exactly what that looks like for them. But I do know that early on in the investigation, they are doing their part to, get those...
Fill in the gaps.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Get that preliminary information. Fill in the gaps. Make sure that this is in the best interest of the child.
And typically, law enforcement or CPS is that first call. So they can also do forensic interviews. Most law enforcement and then DHHS workers are also certified in forensic interviewing. So they'll do sometimes an initial interview at the home or at the scene if the child is in danger, those types of things, and determine what those next steps are. Or they might just receive a call and have enough information based on other calls that might have come in, other cases, or it might be related to, because sometimes it's a situation where a child was a witness to domestic violence in the home, an unsafe environment, those things. So they'll want to do a safety check for that child. So those are some of the ones that come into us also to make sure that the child is safe and there's not other things happening in the home that may not come out in the law enforcement's investigation.
So I have to ask this question. If law enforcement can do forensic interviews and CPS can do forensic interviews, why do we need you to do forensic interviews?
Great question. And I alluded to that a little bit early on in the conversation. And it's really because we provide that safe, neutral environment for that child. Because a lot of times that potential person that is harming the child is in that home when the police go there or when CPS does a home visit. So they really don't have that privacy of being able to have an open and honest conversation, because that person could be in the room right next door. And that child knows that when CPS walks out the door or law enforcement walks out the door, something else may occur in some situations. So it provides kind of that neutral, warm environment. So right from the get-go, when those kiddos come into our facility, we make them feel comfortable. We let them know that they're in charge. They're leading the conversation. And it may sound simple, but we have 2 interview rooms in our facility. So when the kids come in, they get to pick which room they want to use. So right from the beginning, they're in charge. It makes them feel a little bit more comfortable in that we're here to listen to them and that we're going to believe the things that they're telling us, and also reassure them it's never their fault.
Are these interviews, for lack of a better term, court-ordered? And let me explain why I asked that. If a charge is brought forth and the police begin their investigation and then they refer this child to you, can the offenders object if they're, say, the parents of the child? Can they object to the child doing the interview? Can anyone stand in the way of the interview, or is it legally mandated?
Not necessarily legally mandated, but there are circumstances where, for example, like you said, if the caregivers are the offenders, it is in the best interest of the child to do the interview. And working with CPS, we find ways to, if they need a temporary guardianship, if they're in an unsafe situation and the caregivers that they are with are not willing or able to get them to the interview, but that is what is necessary for the investigation to continue. There are definitely different ways that that's approached, but I would say case by case, it looks a lot different.
And that's partly why all of ours are referrals. So that initial, when you get into the legal end of things, and those are all instigated or started through DHHS or law enforcement. So it kind of removes us from that part of it a little bit, to make sure that we follow those protocols and we can get the information needed so that child can start that recovery.
Other than prevention, does anything of what you do with these interviews qualify as non-legal?
No, it's it's just a matter of when you look at the research and those kind of things. If we allowed people just to walk in our facility, it's almost like setting up a precedent that we're going to move forward with this, and that's not really our piece of the pie. Ours is really to work with those partner agencies to help make sure that that kid is safe and that they're going to get that follow-up and whatever may come out of that initial interview that we do. So it kind of separates those two things. Yeah. So it's very unbiased. Our forensic interviewer, when that child comes in, for the most part, unless they've been in for an interview before, that's the first time they've met that child. So there's no pre-biases, those kind of things of what's real, what's not real. It's an open, honest conversation that allows them to get to that point of whatever that information is that child is providing. And then law enforcement and the other agencies will take that information and determine what those next steps are.
If I may, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but if I may add to something that you said earlier when you were speaking, even though we don't take direct, for lack of a better term, walk-ins for interviews, we do have a lot of resources, especially on the prevention end. So on our website, we have a resources page, a links page, where we have internal resources that we provide and some additional stuff.
Hold that thought.
All right, brilliant. You got it.
Take this last break. We come back. I want to talk about the prevention piece.
Perfect.
And we will do that when we return.
Hello, I'm Shep.
And we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show, talking to Kevin High, Executive Director of the Midland Child Advocacy Center, and Kaylee Brown, who is a forensic interviewer. I want to talk about the prevention piece a little bit. Many years ago, decades, I was on the board of the Can Council when it was, in its early days, a prevention agency. That's what it was. And here we are 30-plus years later, still talking about prevention. Mm-hmm. What is it about society that we need prevention to prevent child abuse?
Absolutely. That's a great question. It is so important to focus on that prevention piece. A lot of agencies like Can Council and like ourselves start off being focused on that prevention and then move to those intervention services. But our real goal is to prevent these things from happening as much as possible and to start that conversation early. So a lot of centers really put a lot of energy into getting into schools. We're very blessed in Midland that schools in our county allow us to come into the classrooms and do body safety lessons and discuss things like body autonomy, consent, how to have difficult conversations. We do lessons with parents, darkness to light stewards of children. Our staff is trained to facilitate trainings where we can discuss how to react if a child discloses abuse to you, how to handle that situation, and how to minimize the risk in situations where that could occur. The focus on prevention, I don't think will ever end. I think that will always be a pillar of what child advocacy is, because it is so important for us to talk about it, and it can be hard to talk about, but prevention is really about starting that conversation, making the education available to everyone.
Yeah, and I just think generationally, and I trace it back to the 60s, but could be sometime before or after that, we haven't done a good job of teaching parents how to be parents. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because the parent doesn't know how to be a parent, so they don't teach the child how to be a parent.
Sure.
Yeah, and some of that is that just the awareness of education and what research has shown, so we know better, so we should do better now, and that's an evolving type thing. So how kids were disciplined or treated or vocabulary use and really listening to kids and stuff has changed over the years, so as we've learned more, that prevention focus has really changed so that parents have other options, so they, there's conscious discipline now, really of taking a breath yourself before reacting when your child does something, and some of those techniques and stuff can really help parents better understand that the way they react to something is going to instill different things in their children and have a different reaction from kids. And that's a whole different conversation. But, the prevention piece is one that continually evolves. And we could just do more to let parents know there's other opportunities out there, other options as they struggle with trying to raise kids, because it's not easy. I have 3 kids myself.
All right. Is there a website where people can get more information?
Yes, absolutely. So we just revamped our website. It is midlandcac.org, and that is our agency's website. But we also link out in our resources page to other websites who provide a lot of information, particularly with prevention, on how to facilitate these conversations, how to open up dialogue, what best practices for different developmental ages for talking about body parts, talking about safety, talking about things that once were very difficult subjects, but now we know that we want to open that discussion early and often.
And they're still difficult subjects.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That'll never
That
change.
hasn't changed. I was going to say.
Absolutely. That hasn't changed. But we do know, how important it is to talk about it early so that kids can feel comfortable making disclosures and talking about things without that layer of shame.
Well, Kevin, thanks for being with us today and spending time with us. We appreciate it.
Yep, thanks for having us and letting us get the word out there of what we do and advocating for kids.
Kaylee, thank you much.
Yes,
appreciate
thank you
the
so
conversation.
much. Thank you for having us.
Kaylee and Kevin from the Midland Child Advocacy Center. Let me take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland next to my car dealer, McDonald Ford. It's a one-stop shop for all of your routine maintenance, which is what? Well, oil changes, brakes, tires, batteries, and for all makes and models of cars. They work on everything, and they keep your car or truck in tip-top shape. They also keep you safe in your cabin. They have a new product called FrigiFresh. It's a hospital-grade disinfectant that's placed in your ventilation system. It kills germs, odors, pollen, all of those things, and it works in conjunction with your cabin filter in your car. FrigiFresh is $20, takes 10 minutes to do. You don't need an appointment. You just stop in to Quick Lane Freeland, and they'll be happy to do it for you. Again, they work on all makes and models of cars and trucks. Quick Lane Freeland, right next to McDonald Ford.
I'm Paul Young.
That'll do it for this first hour of the Art Lewis Show. We thank you for being with us. We thank Kevin and Kaylee for being with us, too. Coming up next hour, we're going to stay on this theme a little bit. Kim Rowan, organizer of It Takes a Village, as well as Fred Walraven from the Ennis Center in Saginaw. And we may have someone from Adoption Option in Midland joining us. All of that happens after the news. CBS is up next, and then we have the local report with Michael Perchip. I'm Art Lewis, and we'll be back with you right after the news.
Broadcasting from the storm.
CBS's Charlie DeMar is in Butler, PA.
Law enforcement sources telling CBS News that the shooter had an account on an online platform that said, and he posted at some point before the shooting saying that July 13th would be his premiere.
A source tells CBS News the Secret Service was aware of a suspicious person with a rangefinder on the ground before the shooting, but did not stop him. President Biden is digging in his heels as he nurses a mild case of COVID amid mounting pressure from Democrats to drop his bid for re-election. Correspondent Ed O'Keefe.
The two top congressional leaders, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, now have all said to him, essentially, there's a potential you're going to lose. We're going to lose dozens of House races, handful of Senate races, and lose total control of Washington.
A brutal heat wave has broken in the Northeast, but not before damaging electronic components that have messed up train service royally. CBS New York's Christina Fan.
NJ Transit says that it may take until this weekend to fully restore and repair. As a result, dozens of trains will not operate or will be combined with other trains, and some will have to make additional stops.
What a long, strange trip it's been for this year's Kennedy Center honorees. The Grateful Dead singled out for profound contributions to American culture, along with a 5-time Oscar winner.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
Godfather director Francis Ford Coppola and Cuban-born jazz trumpeter Arturo Sandoval. Bonnie Raitt and Harlem's Apollo Theater are also among this year's nominees. The Dow is up 93. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
My mom's my best friend.
Live from the 100.5 and 790 newsroom, this is WSGW News.
Sunny skies and 64 degrees at 10:05. Good morning. I'm Mike Percha. A 12-year-old girl was shot and killed in Flint on Tuesday. Police say the shooting occurred around 11:15 p.m. at a home in the 4700 block of Canterbury Lane. The girl, identified as Trinity Davis, was asleep in her bed at the time of the shooting and was not the intended target, according to police. She was discovered suffering from at least one gunshot wound. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Police are asking anyone with information about the incident to call the Flint Police Department or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-422-JAIL. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office is providing new information about a domestic violence dispute that happened Wednesday in Orion Township. Here's Michigan News Network's Darylyn Horn.
Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard says the suspect is 67-year-old Galen Gavitt. Deputies say Gavitt entered a home where his 62-year-old ex-girlfriend was living in with her stepson. After Gavitt used an axe to break in, he then used a firearm to shoot through a bedroom door where both the ex-girlfriend and the stepson were barricaded in. The stepson shot the suspect in the head. Deputies confirmed that the exes dated for 17 years, but that a month ago the ex-girlfriend filed a personal protection order and an extreme risk protection order against the suspect. We also know that no one else was injured in the shooting. Darylyn Horn for the Michigan News Network.
Some bike lanes in Bay City have been finished. The Bay City City Commission passed a resolution last year to improve non-motorized facilities for bikes and pedestrians. The new lanes are part of that effort. The completed lanes are located on Midland Street from Euclid to Winona Avenues and Johnson Street from Center to Columbus. No parking signs are in place where the bike lanes are. City officials say the new lanes will reduce the potential for crashes with bikes and pedestrians, and they hope it encourages more people to utilize them. More bike lanes are scheduled to be installed next year. WSGW News Time, 10:07.
In today's conversation,
News Time, 10:08. The weather forecast is coming up. A woman from Ludington has pleaded no contest to the abuse of her 2-year-old child. Tara Treese was already in jail for maintaining a drug house and possession of methamphetamines. She'll add up to 10 years to her sentence for second-degree child abuse. In 2021, Treese brought her unresponsive 2-year-old to the hospital with severe injuries. She told doctors the child had fallen from his crib, but specialists knew that was not the case. Treese has since terminated her parental rights. In Las Vegas on Wednesday, Governor Gretchen Whitmer addressed the NAACP's National Convention and talked about fixing roads, lowering health care costs, and doing what's right for regular people.
Some may stand on a different side of the aisle or be from a different community or have their kids go to a different school or different place in life. But at the end of the day, when we come together, when we fight for equal dignity, equal rights, and equal opportunity, we win.
The governor has been touring the country, stumping for President Joe Biden and promoting her new book. She says Democrats are destined to have a terrible outcome in the November election if people give up and tune out. Close to $1 million in grants will go towards building EV charging infrastructure. The goal is to build more access to charging across Lake Michigan to encourage shoreline tourism. The grants will be available to build direct and fast charging stations along the 1,100 miles of the state's west coast. 17 grants have been awarded so far, totaling more than $900,000. When you see news happening, call the WSGW Newsroom at 752-0790. It's 10:10. I'm Mike Percha.
Your home decorating needs at Westside Decorating Center. Well, we're going to continue on the theme of children, but it's from a different angle this morning. And we have several guests with us to talk about their organizations and an upcoming event. First of all, from an organization called Takes a Village, we welcome Kim Rowan. Kim, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us this morning. And joining her from the Ennis Center in Saginaw is Fred Walraven. Fred, good morning.
Morning, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Also with us is Delois Leapart. And Delois, you're with whom?
Adoption Option.
You are with Adoption Option in Midland, correct?
Yes, and thank you for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let me start with Kim. Kim is the one that kind of instigated this program this morning. I want to go around the horn here and talk about your various organizations before we tie them all together. So, Kim, tell us about It Takes a Village and how it came about.
Well, it came about because I used to be a foster parent. I'm also an adoptive parent. Although I haven't fostered for a long time, I've always been an advocate for the children in foster care and wanting to make the best system that we can give them in Michigan while they're in the system. So I kind of started something called It Takes a Village and teamed up with Ennis Center and Adoption Option. And for the last 3 years, we've done some really good things to get the word out about some of the things that we need in Michigan, which is always more foster parents, but some of the needs that our children have when they come into foster care. So a lot of our things that we've done in the last 3 years have focused around that, as with Sunday will too.
Fred, tell us a little bit about the Ennis Center.
Ennis Center for Children Incorporated, we have multiple locations throughout the state of Michigan. We have Detroit, Flint, Saginaw, Williamston, and Pontiac, as well as a Port Huron office. We have a multitude of programs that we offer throughout the locations. We have a community-based delinquency program, a fostering creativity program. We have outpatient counseling. We have treatment foster care. We have a youth assistant program, and we also have a regional resource team. Specifically in Saginaw, we offer outpatient treatment. We license foster homes. We do adoption case management as well as foster care case management.
How long has the Ennis Center been around?
The Ennis Center has been around for quite some time. It was founded by Mr. Bob Ennis, and excuse me. It was founded by Mr. Bob Ennis, and throughout the decades that Mr. Ennis was incorporated with the company, it's been just thriving and continuing to grow.
And Lois, let's talk a little bit about the organization you represent, which is, of course, the option, the adoption option. How did that come about?
It came about 20 years ago when the need was clear because there were children in Michigan who weren't getting adopted, but they were available for adoption. Their parental rights had been terminated and no one had stepped up. So we just wanted to help. And that's how we started out 20 years ago, helping children get adopted. But as time grew, so did requests. DHS asked us to help them with foster licensing, so we did. DHS asked us to help with foster care, so we did. So we kept expanding services in response to the needs. We've been around for 20 years, and we've served not only in adoption, foster care, and licensing, but we also do family preservation. So if a family has their children removed and they want to get them back, call us. We have parent education classes. We'd be delighted to help you grow your parenting skills. We also offer mentoring for teens in foster care that will probably age out, and we work to find them a mentor to teach them life skills. We also do facilitation for parents trying to find resources to help them reunite with their children. We offer those facilitation services and expose them to more resources. We've got a great team, and last year they served in excess of 1,700 people, collectively, children and adults. They served more than 1,700 people last year.
Let me ask you, because you all have one thing in common, and that's foster care. Is the foster care system broken? Kim?
Well, being that I'm not involved in it on a day-to-day basis, I would say that it's not broken, but could we do better? Of course it can. We can, especially when we come to some of our teens. I feel like in Michigan, we have a lot of teens that get stuck in the system. We don't have that many residential settings. Mm-hmm. Some of our teens, just like some of our foster kids, have traumas, and those traumas become behaviors or mental health issues. So they're hard to place in homes, and we need to do better. Personally, I think we need to do better with teens. I work in mental health right now. They're inpatient. I have seen so many foster kids who sometimes just have no place to go after they're ready to be discharged. And there's nothing that brings a tear to my eye than seeing a child interviewing people in hopes that they can take them into their home. And then if that happens, how grateful they are and thanking these people. Thank you for taking me. Thank you for taking me. That child who's 14 should be getting ready to go to school. They should be out picking clothes out for school, enjoying the summer, not sitting there worrying because of their behaviors, because of their trauma. They don't have a place to go. And we need to do better by our teens.
Fred, how about from your viewpoint? Is it broken, and how do we fix it if it is?
From my viewpoint, I concur with Kim. I would not say, excuse me, that it's broken. I would say that there's always room for improvement. We must recognize the trauma that these children go through. We also must recognize that the behaviors that the children are exhibiting are in many times results of the trauma that they have gone through. So I believe that the foster care system can always be improved. The agencies are doing the best jobs they can with the resources that they have. I would also say that the foster care system, specifically foster children, foster parents, despite any disagreements that anybody has, everybody can agree that foster children, the foster care system, is the yarn that binds us together. That's how I would put it. No matter what you believe, everybody, I believe, agrees that foster children and foster parents must be wrapped around with love and care in order to improve the system.
Yeah. And Dolores, from your viewpoint?
I do concur with both Kim and Fred that any system that is run by human beings has the opportunity to be improved. And of course, the foster care system is no exception. But I tell you, one of the best ways to improve it is to get involved. If you have a heart for helping children, call one of us. Adoption Option would be glad to help you. And of course, so would Ennis. If you have a heart for helping children, but you don't think you can go through the process to be licensed, Kim's event, It Takes a Village, is an opportunity to contribute to make children's lives better. So one way to make the foster care system better is by contributing whatever you can, whether it's financial, whether it's mentoring a teen 4 hours a month, whether it's contributing backpacks at school time, or whether it's becoming a licensed foster parent and changing lives one at a time. There's currently a movie showing called The Story of Hope. It's about a number of people in Possum Trot, Texas, who elected to choose to make a difference, a positive difference in foster care. It wasn't easy, but they all stepped up and they made a difference in the lives of children. So there are many ways to fix the broken system. And the first way, it starts with people stepping up.
All right, hang on and we will return. There's a big event coming up that we're going to talk about called Christmas in July. With our guests here on the Art Lewis Show, we will be back with more.
We're proud to make...
All right, we're back with you here on WSGW, the Art Lewis Show. And we are chatting with several guests this morning. First of all, we have Kim Rowan with us from It Takes a Village, Fred Walraven, and he is with the Ennis House, and Dolores Leapart, and she is with the Adoption Option Agency in Midland. So, Kim, one of the things that's happening is a fundraiser called Christmas in July. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, this is the same that we have done the last 2 years. This is our third year, only we've always done it during the holiday season. So we moved it to Christmas or to July this year because I always felt like we were competing against a lot of people that were doing some really good things at the holidays. So we thought we'd try it in July. It will be at the Willow Lounge, which is in Bay City. It's from 2 to 6. We have several bands. There'll be a tent outside. We have some great raffle prizes. If you bring an unwrapped Christmas toy, hygiene products, blankets, diapers, all of that type of stuff, or you can even make a cash donation. Our teens are always interested and enjoy gift certificates from other places that you would get if you had teens. You will get a free raffle ticket automatically for your donation, and you can purchase more. And so we're just going to have a good day in Michigan out in the nice weather, listening to some great music and supporting our local foster children.
And is there a charge to attend?
Your charge is just bring something. Those who, I'm going to let that be up to the viewer of what they can donate. If it's a hygiene product and a bottle of shampoo, we'll take it. If it's diapers, we'll take it. If it's a, expensive toy, we'll take it. Anything is welcome and appreciated. And for that donation, you'll get a free raffle ticket to put in one of our prizes that were donated from area community businesses.
And this is Sunday, July 21st at the
Correct.
Willow Lounge at 3005 East Midland Road in Bay City. Let me ask all of you how your various agencies are funded. Let me start with you, Delois. How is the adoption option funded?
Well, we are blessed with donors, just like all adoption agencies. That is a very crucial part of the funding of our organization. We also are funded by contracts with DHS. Those contracts usually cover most of the costs, but not all. There are times we want to do things for children. As Fred mentioned, children have trauma, and their needs arising out of that trauma are often met by the contract, but not always. So we're grateful to people like Kim, who organize fundraisers at the Willow to help our children. We can't thank you enough, Kim, for putting this together. And the Willow does such a good job of having so many different types of fantastic music, so many types of excellent musicians. Kim's got marvelous raffle prizes. So we're excited about the community coming out, having a good time, and helping our children.
Fred, how about the Ennis House? How are you funded?
The Ennis, the Ennis Center for Children is funded essentially the same way. I can't stress enough the importance of the community partnerships, the donors. The donors are the foster parents are a tremendous asset to all nonprofits, if you will. The programs simply cannot occur if we don't have those types of partnerships.
And Kim, it takes a village. Is a village funded?
It's funded by me. It's funded by me.
I knew that was going to be there.
It's a nonprofit. I'm not a registered nonprofit, so that's why I work with Ennis Center and Adoption Option, who are. So I'm just an example of what they were talking about. I'm somebody who doesn't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. I get up, I see something that needs to be done, and I think, how can I help? How can I fix it? And I try to lead by example to tell other people to do the same. And I've done it for a lot of different things in our community, not just foster children. So when I picked It Takes a Village, I went back to my time being a foster parent, and I understood that I would not have got through it without a village. The village consists of a lot of different people. Even though I was the foster parent, it takes a village. And as a parent myself of 7 children who are not all from the foster care system, it takes a village to do anything in this world. So if you can't be a foster parent, you can still be part of the village. And that's why that name was picked and why it came to me. But so I have enjoyed working for the last 3 years with both these agencies and the people that I work with from those agencies, and I know that they both do wonderful work in this community.
Dolores, let me ask about finding foster parents. First of all, are there enough? And what's the procedure if somebody's interested in becoming a foster parent?
All right, that's a great question. No, they are not enough. There are roughly close to 10,000 children in foster care. And so nothing hurts my heart more than when I get a call and DHS says, I need a home for a child who is this age. Do you have a family license to care for that particular age and gender? And I say, I'm so sorry, I don't. I hate having to say that. And so the way to get licensed, there are multiple ways. You're welcome to call our agency at 989-839-0534. You're welcome to call Ennis. You're welcome to call any adoption agency. We'd be delighted to walk you through the process. We have a staff dedicated to that. And if you don't want to make that call, we appear in public places. For example, I believe some of our licensing staff will be at It Takes a Village. So you could talk to any adoption option employee there and say, could you call me and give me more information? We also have a website, and you can go on that website and let us know you would like more information. We also have the website's www.aoicw.org. We also have Facebook. If you want to send us a Facebook message saying, I want more information. So there are lots of ways to contact us, and we'll walk you through the entire process.
Out of curiosity, how many foster parents end up being adoptive parents?
That varies from year to year. Significant majority of the parents that are foster parents end up adopting. However, when a child comes into foster care, the number one goal is family reunification. So a child comes in and the label put on them is, quote, temporary ward, because everybody is working together to see if we can equip the parents with the parenting skills that will allow that child to return to their home. So the state puts a lot of effort, and private agencies put a lot of effort in trying to get the child back home. If that is not successful, then adoption becomes an option.
All right, hang on. I got to take a break. We'll come back. Fred, you'll be up next to talk about how you're funded and your organization. All of that is ahead on the Art Lewis Show.
Attention, Saginaw. After
All right, we're back with you, talking to several guests that have to do with foster care and the like. There is a fundraiser. We've been asked to repeat this information. There is a fundraiser called Christmas in July, put on by It Takes a Village, and this is Sunday, July 21st from 2 to 6 p.m. at the Willow Lounge, 3005 East Midland Road in Bay City. Music by Whiskey Six, Coleman Road, Bob Hosler, and Robert Lee. All kinds of raffles and door prizes, and Santa may even show up from 3 to 5 p.m. They ask that you bring an unwrapped gift to donate to area children in foster care, including gift cards for teenagers, appropriate games, other toys, diapers, wipes, blankets, baby items are all appreciated. Bring your own lawn chair. No coolers or outside food, please. But it is a free event, but if you can bring a gift, it would be appreciated. Again, it is Sunday, July 21st. All right, Fred, so we talked to Dolores about how her organization is funded and operated. And yours, what's the story?
Our funding comes from the state of Michigan. It comes from the donors that play such a significant part in essentially all nonprofits. Nonprofits simply cannot survive without the help from the community and the stakeholders. One thing that I would like to say that's an excellent question is to the listeners, never be afraid to speak up. If you think that there is something going on that, a child may be abused or neglected, you can always speak up. You can always call the Michigan Centralized Intake phone number. One also program that is rolled out now. Many times the foster parents need a break, and there is a new program that Ennis Center for Children is also rolling out, or has rolled out. It's a respite program. So you can go to enniscenter.org, and it will give you a link to become a foster parent. If you cannot become a long-term foster parent, in terms of you just simply don't have the time to devote to that child, like I said, there's always foster parents that simply need a break. The respite program can provide that break for the foster parent. So that is a rather new concept, if you will, an undertaking, because we obviously don't want foster parents to say, I can't do this anymore. They just need a little short break. And many foster parents will do that. Some foster parents will just take children on an emergency basis. Just like Kim said, there are so many different ways that you can help. You just have to reach out, and definitely somebody from one of our organizations can definitely help your listeners.
Kim, you were a foster parent. What's it like to be a foster parent? What's the commitment like?
Well, I did it for 5 years. My youngest is 17, so it was 17 years ago. And I had 45 children during those 5 years. It is rewarding, and it is can be very frustrating as well. So it can be double-sided, and you have to understand that. You also need to understand that these children are not your children. You're doing it for a short time in hope that you make a difference. They may stay a couple days, they may stay 3 years, but you don't know that. So you give them the best that you can give them of yourselves to help them switch around things that need. I took medically fragile children, so it was a lot of going to the bigger hospitals, getting this taken care of, and so then when they went back home, they were back on track. So it's a lot. The process of becoming a foster parent is in depth, and it should be. We're giving somebody's children to a foster parent to oversee, and there's a lot of things that they need to check in about the family, the foster home. But if you do it going in for the right reasons, because the myth that I hear all the time, which is the most ridiculous thing, is people thinking that foster parents are becoming millionaires by being a foster parent. That I don't know, that I've never seen that happen ever in my lifetime, but you do get compensated. But just like if you have your own children, you want to treat these children like they're your own children, but there's some things you cannot do that you would do with your own children. You have to get permission to cut their hair, to even leave the state if you're going on vacation. Most of the time, foster children cannot have their picture publicized in anything. So it's hard to do the licensing part. And so that's the part, the first thing that you do is all that paperwork. So that becomes frustrating for people, but you can get through it, and there will be people that will support you. And you will look back when you decide not to do it anymore and know that you have done some wonderful things. Even if those children don't remember who you are, you touched them while they were in their house, and you treated them with dignity. And you also knew, and people need to remember, foster kids are not in foster care because they did anything to put themselves in there. They are in there because there's some brokenness within the family who can maybe be fixed and go back home, but it has nothing to do with these foster children. They are not the reason that they came into foster care. And often they feel like they are, and they're not. It has nothing to do with them.
Delois, you've been shaking your head in agreement.
Yes, Kim gave a very accurate portrayal. People who are successful at foster care go into it to help children. And what they find is children help them. They grow together. They invest in helping this child become an adult. And while investing, that contribution they make makes them feel good. So I often compare being a foster parent like a ministry. You give because you want to see the child grow. You give your heart, you give your guidance, you help them with their education, just like you would do your own children. And you do it because you want to see them grow. And while you're doing it, an attachment forms. And if those children are unable to go back home, many people are surprised when they end up in adoption court because they came into it just to help a foster child. But a bond forms. And when that bond forms, if they can't go home, then that foster parent is able to adopt.
All right, hang on for one more break, and then we'll come back and finish up with our guests as we talk about foster care and a special event coming up on July 21st. And we will remind you of that when we return here on the Art Lewis Show. House Family Restaurant is the best place to go for your authentic home-cooked foods with a European flair at reasonable prices. Now's the time to think about getting together with friends and family for lunch or dinner, as well as upcoming events. Graduations, confirmations, weddings, showers, anniversaries, the like. Krizak's has an economical way for you to supply the food. You can order what you want in Polish and American foods and then just pick it up at the restaurant ready to go, or better yet, have your celebration right there at the restaurant. And don't forget, at a moment's notice, Krizak's can help. Call them at 989-894-5531. Krizak's House Family Restaurant, corner of Cass and Michigan, on Bay City's south side.
Let's see.
On the Art Lewis Show, chatting with Kim Rowan from It Takes a Village and Delois Liepart from Adoption Option in Midland, and Fred Walraven from the Ennis Center. So, Kim, let me go back to you because we just want to remind everybody about this event again, the whens and wheres and what you're looking for.
So we're having a Christmas in July. It is on Sunday, this coming Sunday, July 21st, at the Willow Lounge in Bay City. It's from 2 to 6. We have some great bands. We have great raffle prizes. If you bring anything, a Christmas toy, hygiene products, diapers, gift certificates, even a cash donation, you'll automatically get a raffle ticket and you can purchase more. The Willow will be selling drinks and food, so you cannot bring anything like that. There will be some picnic tables there, but if you want to bring a comfortable chair, that's fine. And Santa Claus will be there. Christmas or July Santa Claus will be there at 3 o'clock to 5. If your children want to come in and talk with them, there'll be some games that you can play out in the side yard of the tent. This is rain or shine. If it's, tornado-ic, then we'll be inside, but otherwise we'll be outside. And so just come out and support local foster children in our area. Everything collected will be dispersed between Adoption Option and Ennis Center and will go into the hands of the children they serve.
And will the organizations be there for people to get information if they want?
Oh, yes. Just because I'm up here talking doesn't mean that I do this alone. I do not. I have people that I work with from Ennis Center. I have people that I work with from Adoption Option. We get together. I'm kind of the organizer, and I come up with these fabulous ideas, and then they support me. So they will be there to answer questions about how to become a foster parent and what their agencies do.
All right. Fred, do you have a website for people to visit?
Yes, we do. It's enniscenter.org. There are multiple links on there, especially to become a foster parent. You click on that link and it will guide you to the correct place to become a foster parent, to make your inquiries, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. One thing that I just wanted to touch on really fast, Kim makes an excellent point regarding the amount of pay and the thought that many times foster parents are just making these hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's not the case. I just wanted to, when there's more needs for the child than the foster parent is compensated more due to the fact that there's more programs, there's more therapy, there's more transportation, things like that. The daily rate for a foster parent is $22.35 a day, $22.35 a day, and which would equate to approximately 93 cents an hour.
Yeah.
So I would invite anybody to try to find a babysitter just to go out on a night for 93 cents an hour.
Fred, thanks. Delois, just quickly, your website.
www.adoptionoptioninc.org. Adoptionoptioninc.org.
Very good. Delois, thank you much for being with us today. Really appreciate it. Fred, thank you very much. And Kim, good luck with it.
Thank you, and thanks for having us.
You're more than welcome. Thanks a lot. We'll be back to close out after these notes.
Dare you not to get this song stuck.
For the Art Lewis Show, Buck Insurance will be next on Focus.
Broadcasting from the